We started Leadership Uncensored probably about 10 years ago. I saw an article that said one of the greatest problems that was going to face businesses in 2020, this was back in 2010, early 2000s-ish, they said one of the greatest problems that was going to face companies was the lack of leadership. And so they had predicted this 10, 15 years ago, that this was going to be where we are today. A couple years ago, I was reading an article that there were CEOs of companies who were 70 and 80 years old that didn't want to work, but they knew they couldn't quit. They knew they couldn't retire because there were no leaders in place to take their position. And so they were working until they're 80, 90, trying to keep organizations afloat because there's no quality leaders out there. And so that's why we started Leadership Uncensored, because the Lord spoke to me and said the same thing that's happening in the world is happening in the church. And that people, they have businesses, they want to start businesses, but there was a time where people had a need. They would come to the church, and they would come to the church to get their needs met. And the Christian, the whole name, the church, the ecclesia, the called out ones, they were always the best of the best. They were the business people, they were the generals, they were the artists, they were the most talented people that came together to decide whether the city would go to war, whether the kingdom would go to war. Somewhere along the line, the church went from being the best to kind of being mediocre. And I think it's important for us in what God has asked us to do to begin to equip people to build. I believe the next CEOs of Nike are in this room. I believe wholeheartedly the next CEOs of American Airlines are in this room. I really believe that the people in this room can do great things. And so the Lord began to deal with us about pouring out into those people so that y'all can do what God has called you to do, so that we can be a greater influence. We can shift elections. Do you understand what would happen if the church began to step back into its position? We would control elections. We would have more godly policies. The reason why we don't is because so many people have gotten lost in the idea of the world is the one who prospers and the church doesn't. This is what Leadership Uncensored exists to do. This is just what we do, and this is why we do it. It's greater than just giving y'all principles of how to be successful. It is being a part of allowing the kingdom to work through you. Amen.